Hi everyone, I am CA Surbhi Punshi, Indirect Tax Expert at ClearTax, and today we all gathered here for our live workshop, which will be more focused on the ITC part. So we know in the last session we have discussed more on the liability part, where we understood about different tables. We also understood about the basic of G9, like to whom this GST9 is even app 9. And when we talk about aggregate turnover, we always have to compute this at a PAN level. But when it comes to filing of GST9, it has to be filed at a GSTN level. And we also understood the GST9 is applicable for the registered regular person who actually filed GSTR-1 and 3B. They are required to file this GSTR-9. It is not applicable for the ISD or a casual taxable person or the non-resident or a person who is liable to deduct TDS or TCS. So it is not applicable for them. This is applicable for the people who actually file GSTR-1 and 3B either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So to them, this GSTR-9 is applicable, and we also know that late fees, it's like 200 rupees per day if you don't file by the due date. That's a late fees, and you can't revise a GSTR-9 once it is filed. So it becomes very important that you file it very carefully, looking into every information, cross verifying that information, and then only file your GSTR-9. So this was all about the basics which we have already discussed in the last session. We also talk about like what were the different tables of GSTR-9, and they are total six part, and this six part was divided into different tables. We talked about mainly focused on that we are going to divide all this part into some tables, right? And this tables was categorized in three part. One was the tables related to liability and the taxes paid, other was related to ITC and its reversal, and third was other section. In last session, we discussed and focused more on the liability and the taxes paid. And if who missed that, I would just suggest if you can just go to that recording. We'll anyhow share that with you if you have missed it. Where we focused on table 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 40. And in today's session, right? So in today's session, we are going to more focused on our table number 6, table number 7, table number 8, table number 12, table number 13. So these are some tables which we are going to focus in our today's session. How to show ITC, how to show ITC reversal, what would be the source which we are going to use, like is it 3B, is it your purchase register, or just 2B? How exactly we have to show different values of ITC and the ITC which we have reversed in our GSTR 3B while we are filing our GSTR 9. So we are going to talk about this. We'll also talk about the inter adjustments. What about there was some ITC related to previous year claimed in the current month, or some ITC related to the current year claimed in the next month? How are we going to show that information? What about the reversals? What about some credit note which was related to maybe current year but shown in the next year, or some previous year credit note shown in the current month? So how are we going to show all this thing? We are going to discuss in this today's session. We'll also talk about like especially table 8, focus on that, where we talk about there's a document level information which we get in table number 8A. How exactly we have to show that information too. So we are going to cover all of that in today's session. So let's start our today's session, which is on ITC and its reversals. Now, when we talk about ITC and ITC reversal, we are mainly going to focus on table number 6, which is ITC, table number 7, table number 8, then you have table number 12 and table number 13. These are the table which we are going to focus in today's session. So here, when we are going to focus on this, first let's understand what exactly is there. We'll also talk about what are the mandatory information or what are the optional information. So we are going to even cover that. Let's first understand what exactly this table 6.6 even asking, right? What are the information over here? There is something called table number 6A, right? When we look into the wording, it says this is the total ITC which has been availed through GSTR 3B in sum of total of your total 4A of GSTR 3B. If you look into 4A, right? 4A is nothing but it just talk about, okay, what is your ITC related to your import of goods? What is the ITC which you have claimed maybe because of the import of services? What are the ITC which you have claimed because of the reverse charge thing? What is the ITC you have claimed because of an ISD? And what is the other ITC, which is all other ITC, which is nothing but you actually get in 2B and accordingly claim in your GSTR 3B. Right? That is what 4A even talk about. So 4A is more focused on the claiming of the ITC. Right? Whereas when we look into GSTR 3B ka form and when we focused on the 4B part, 4B part is more focused on the reversal part. Like whatever the ITC which you reversed in GSTR 3B, that comes in 4B of GSTR 3B. right? So here we are only focused on the 4A. So yahan, if you look into the value, right, in table number 6A, this is directly getting populated from your GSTR 3B. There is a section called 4A, which means all of that thing. If we look into it, right, how exactly your 3B one looks like. So when we just go through GSTR 3B, how exactly our 3B looks like today. So if we just see, there's a different tables in like your GSTR 3B, and when we look into it, what were the different tables in GSTR 3B? So this is how this there are table, right? So there is 4A, which is import of goods, import of services, inward supply liable to reverse charge other than 1 and 2 above. Then there is an inward supply from ISD, and then there is all other ITC. When we club the values, right, for FY 21-22, because we are going to focus specially on the financial year 21-22, we are going to prepare GSTR-9 for FY 21-22. So when we just club this value, whatever is coming in 4A1, 4A2, 4A3, 4A4, and 4A5 in GSTR 3B for FY 21-22, that value is coming in your table 6A of GSTR 9, right? So this is the value which government is going to populate from there. Now let me ask you a few questions also here. Today we all understand that okay, there are some invoices, there is some debit notes which we show the ITC under this section, and right now I'm only focused on this part. I'm not going to focus on the changed wala part. Why I'm not going to focus on the changed part in today's session? The main reason is because this changes, right? Because now we also understand 3B have been changed. It's not the same as it used to be earlier. But in today's session, I'm going to only focus on the old 3B wala part, because we are going to file GSTR-9 for FY 21-22, and the new changes was never there in FY 21-22. The new changes which government has proposed and not proposed, I would say, is now finalized state. In fact, even it is implemented on the GSTN portal too. So that new changes is applicable from August 2021. Sorry, I would say August 2022, right? So that new changes is applicable from August 2022, whereas we are filing GSTR-9 for FY 21-22, which means that new changes is not even applicable while we are filing GSTR-9 for FY 21-22. And when I'm talking about new changes, right, I'm not talking about that ITC availment limits and all. That is obviously applicable for FY 21-22 too. I'm talking about that forms changes, right, where the government have introduced this 4D1, 4D2, and also like the 4B, they need a breakups and all. I'm talking about that changes, which is a more of a format changes and how to even report the different values from your GSTR-2B. So we'll not focus on that because that is not applicable for our GSTR-9 for FY 21-22. I'm more focused on that how our GSTR-3B looks like when we were filing our GSTR-3B for FY 21-22. So which means ultimately when I sum up 4A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is the value which is reporting or which has to be reported or auto-populated in my GSTR 6A of GSTR 9, right? So there is no confusion till now. I think we are saying, okay, we'll just directly populate in the value here in there is a 6A, and this value will be auto-populated from the government portal, right? When you just look into your GSTR 9, this is auto-populated. You can't even edit it. You can't even change it. Right? There is no problem. Okay, we got it. It gets auto-populated. Now let me ask you one simple question. Today we know that we have the invoices. We also have a debit note. We also have some credit notes. If there is some purchases I have made, let's assume I have purchased something for 100 rupees. There is a credit note of 20 rupees because I have written some good. Ultimately, I'm eligible. Let's say in the same month this transaction happened. You had like an invoice of 100 rupees, you have some credit note of 20 rupees. Now my question is, when you populate this value, right, ultimately you're eligible for ITC of rupees 80. That's true. Am I right here? That if I have an invoice of 100 rupees, I have a credit note of 20, so you are eligible to claim the net amount, which is 80 rupees is an ITC which you are going to claim in your GSTR 3B, right? Now question is, are you going to show the entire 80 amount, which is a net amount in the 4A5, or you are going to show 100 rupees in your 4A5 and 20 rupees under the 4B, which is a ITC reversal while you are filing your GSTR 3B? Assume this, both the invoice and the credit note was even reflecting in your GSTR 2B. Assume this is now getting your 3B is also getting auto populated from your GSTR 2B. In this example, Let's assume I had an invoice, I have a credit note, both were in the same month. Let's say in April 2021, I got one invoice, I got one credit note also. And invoice tax amount was 100 rupees, the credit note tax amount was 20 rupees. My question was, are you going to show in, especially while you're filing your GSTR 3B, right? In 4A5, you are going to show 100, and in 4B, you are going to show 20, or you are going to show the net amount of 80 rupees in 4A5? That's the question I'm going to ask, and maybe you can reply on the chat box. How are you going to show this value today while you file your GSTR 3B? I could see answer from Abhinav. Abhinav says 4A 100 and 4B 20. Tarun says 120. Sachin says 120. And Ashokan says net value. Okay, Sonali says separately. Narendra says 120. Vinod says 80. All right. So I'm getting actually a mixed of answer, but most of you are saying that we are going to show 120. So see, if you ask me today, right, how the government is treating, if you just see the auto populated value by the GSTN, right, because ultimately they're auto populating the value in your GSTR 3B. When you see that auto computed value or auto populated value from your GSTR 2B, you will see that the GSTN is populating the invoices and the debit note ka value under 4A5, which means there they are showing 100. And in the 4B, which is a reversal session, they are going to show 20 rupees. That is how they are populating, which means 120 separately. But obviously there are people, many people, what we do, we used to like actually report this value as a net value also. Many of us actually today also just show the net value, despite like GST and auto populating this values from 2B as a separate value rather than as a net value. But many times we do that, right? But assuming like because GST anyhow is auto populating, most of us would have gone with that approach where we are showing invoices debit note under 4A5 and the credit note under 4B. So now when we look into 6A, right? 6A, you will see what value would be coming over here. The value over here would be 100, right? The value over here is 100. There's no problem. Because see, why I'm even talking about this whole thing, we also have to look into table number 8. So when we go and see table number 8 of GSTR-9, we have to focus on how the value is getting populated and how the differences has to be matched. That's the reason it's really very important that you are understanding like how exactly the values is getting populated, because I'm going to ask this question again while we focus on table number 8. While we are filling table number 8, I'm going to ask this question again. So till now you said that 100 we are going to show in 6A. I'm assuming there was only one invoice, one credit note, a very simple example. You said, okay, in 6A I'm going to show this value, and in 6A what I'm going to show, I'm just going to show the value as 100 rupees over here. In 6A I will show 100 rupees, right? There is no problem over here. Now the thing is, if we look into it, then we see there is a breakup government is asking. This is okay in 6B, 6C, 6D, 6E, 6F, 6G, and 6H. There is some value they are asking from us. They are saying, okay, in 6B, you show the inward supplies other than the import and inward supply liable to reverse charge, but includes the supplies received from SEZ. What they're asking for that? What exactly is that? It's just inward supply. They have removed that imports and the reverse charge thing. And they say, okay, whatever the purchases you have made from the registered person, you just show in my 6B. That is what they're asking, right? When we look into the 6C, they says, okay, whatever the inward purchases you have made from an unregistered person and it was under the reverse charge, right? Obviously, if you purchase from the unregistered person and if it was not under the reverse charge, it will not even come here, because that is not the ITC I'm getting, because that person will never charge GST at all. So if I'm purchasing from the unregistered person and that transaction was not covered under the reverse charge, then there is no question of populating over here, because there would not be any GST which is charged, right? So here the second 6B is nothing but they're saying whatever the purchases you have made, there was some ITC in respect of the reverse charge and from the unregistered person. Third may they say, okay, then you may have some inward supplies. There is the transaction covered under reverse charge, but it is from the registered person. Can also happen. Let's assume you have purchased something from a GTA, right? When you purchase from GTA and assume that GTA is registered, right? In that particular case also it can covered under the reverse charge, so that you have to report in 6T. So you're saying inward supply received from registered person liable to reverse charge. Then they say, okay, you also have 6C, which is nothing but import of goods. Import of goods, obviously it will include supply from SEZ also, because there also we file bill of entry. Then 6F shows import of services. It does not include supplies from SEZ. I will talk about that, what exactly that means over here. Then there is also a G, which talks about you have the input tax credit which has been received from an ISD, right? Then there is 6H, which talks about amount of ITC reclaimed other than B above. In short, if you ask me, this is nothing but they're just asking you tell me that in 3B I understood you have claimed ITC, you give me the breakup of that ITC. What was the ITC from the registered person other than the reverse charge thing? If it is a reverse charge thing, you report it separately because anyhow you're not liable for that, right? So it's like you have to pay at one place and you have to claim at the second place. So you're saying that in 6B you tell me whatever the purchases you have other than the reverse charge from the registered person you show in 6B. Then whatever the purchases you have made and it is under the reverse charge from that unregistered person, show in 6P. If you have some transaction, you have some ITC again under the reverse charge, but from the registered person, show in 6C. Then you show in 6T. And then you have import of goods. Wherever you have filed for bill of entry, we know that taxes has to be paid by us at a custom, right? We always paid at a custom, and then this also gets populated in 2B today. But again, here I am dependent, right? The supply is not dependent on that to file anything. I pay the taxes at custom, it gets reflected in 2B, I claim the ITC in my GSTR-3B, right? So that information, the import of goods information, you show in your 6E. Then if there is some import of services, because again we know whenever we are importing any services we have to pay the taxes, right? Again, as a recipient I will pay the taxes, you show here under the 6F. Then 6G, whatever the head office, right? From head office also I receive some invoices where they distribute that ITC, show that information in 6G, right? Then there is 6H. 6H is nothing but many times what happened today, you all understood again 180 days wala thing, right? That I would have claimed some ITC. When I would have claimed the ITC, let's say in the month of April, I received one invoice, I could see in 2B and all, right? I have claimed that ITC also. When I claimed that ITC, I would have kept that ITC under the 4A5 of GSTR-3B. So when you have seen in GSTR-3B, when I filed it, I would have shown under 4A5. There was no problem. It's coming in 4A5. When we look into 6A also, right? 6A also, this value would have been populated, that 100 rupees. Let's say I claimed some ITC of, let's say, 150 rupees. I'm not using 100 now because that example I want to use it for that table number 8 also, that credit note and that the invoice wala part. Let's assume for the for this reclaim thing, right? What happened? I received one invoice for 150 rupees. When I received this invoice for 150 rupees, right? Let's say in the month of April, I received an invoice and I claimed ITC also, and it's an eligible ITC, all the condition was met. 6A May, the value was coming as 150 rupees. There was no problem. But after 6 months, I have not made the payment to the vendor. When I have not made the payment to the vendor, we know as per the rule, we have to reverse that ITC, right? Now, when I reverse this ITC in GSTR-3B, I'm going to reverse that under 4B, right? In 4A, obviously, I'm not going to reverse. That is for the claiming section. I am going to reverse this entry under the 4B. So when I reverse this entry in the 4B, question is whether in 6A that value will be populated or not. Here, because I have not made the payment to the vendor, I have to reverse my ITC, and I'm going to reverse that ITC in GSTR-3B under table number 4B. My question to all of you, whether that information, that 150 rupees which I have reversed after 6 months because I have not made the payment to the vendor, like within 180 days I have not made the payment to the vendor, whether that information, that 150 rupees will be coming in my 6A, the amount which I have reversed. So you can reply on the chat box. In the month of April, I have claimed 150 rupees. Automatically that in 6A, I would be seeing 150 rupees, right? Now in the next month, or maybe not next month, after 6 months, right? I have reversed that in the 4B, right? I have done 4B mein 150 rupees. Now question is, in 6A, when you look into this, whether you will see 0 rupees or you will see 150 rupees. In 6A, will I be seeing 150 rupees or I will be seeing 0 over here? Because ultimately, when I look into it, in 6A, I would have claimed, in 4A of GSTR-3B, I would have claimed 150. And then in 4B, I would have reversed, which means ultimately I have done at 150 rupees. So here in 6A of GSTR-9, whether I will be seeing 150 or I will be seeing 0 rupees, and I could see there's a lot of answer. So here Abhinav says claim part will show, reversal will not show. Naren says we will retake the sum after making the payment. Abhinav says 150. Sachin says 150. Arjun says 150. Krishna says 0. Okay. So most of the people are saying 150, which is perfectly right. Like Because what we said in the starting, we discussed that this is nothing but this is a sum of 4a1, 4a2, 4a, sorry, it's just a sum of 4a1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the value which I'm going to show it over here, right? In 6a, it's just a sum of that values, which means the reversal part which I have done in 4b of GSTR-3b, that will not form part of 6a. So ultimately 150 rupees is coming over here till the time I have done the reversal. Now what happens? After, let's say, 7-8 months, I have again made the payment to the vendor. When I made the payment to the vendor, I will be again eligible to claim that ITC. Right now, I can claim that ITC. Now, when I'm able to claim that ITC, how I'm going to show again in 4A5, I will be claiming that ITC. I will just show 150 rupees again. Question is, in 6A, will I now see, after reclaiming that ITC, will I see now 300 rupees or will I be seeing 150 rupees? Now I have reclaimed that ITC after 6-7 months. Now when I do for an entire year, let's say all this happened, like the claiming, the reversal, again reclaiming, all happened in the FY 21-22. Question is, when I look into 6A, whether I will be seeing 150 rupees or I will be seeing 300. And I could see there's a different answers coming up. Okay, so I would say Mohammed says 150, Sandeep says 150, Kishan says 150, Sachin says 150. Okay, Vijay says 150, Maruti says 300, Kranti says 300. Right, so I am getting actually different answers over here. So if you ask me, right, as I told you, 4A5, right, of GSTR-3B. In 1 month, I would be seeing 150. Then maybe after 7-8 months, again, I will be seeing 150. When you look into this, right, when it is auto-computed, I will be seeing 300. Why? Because government don't know that this is a kind of a reclaim ITC. There is no such separate section over there in GSTR-3B, right? So when you look into 6A, you will always be seeing 300 over here, right? Because there is nothing, a reversal part they never considered while they are doing or populating the value in 6A, right? So this is one part. So here, why I was even talking about all this, because what government is saying, the table itself says show the details of the ITC which is availed during the financial year. So here in 6A, the value which has been populated will be the value which is coming in your GSTR-3B in table number 4A, which is 4A1, 4A2, 4A3, 4A4 and 4A5. That value will be coming. This will not include any kind of the ITC reversal which you do in your GSTR-3B. There would be a lot of reversals also, right? Because of rule 42, 43, you would have done some reversal. You may have done some reversals because of maybe, I would say this part, the reclaiming part, right? So at that time, you have just 180 days condition was not met. So you have done the reversals over there, right? There would be some temporary reversals also you have done. So that part will not be included in 6A. Now, when we look into the information from 6B to 6H, is nothing but just a breakup of whatever the value was coming in 6A. So from 6B to 6H, we are just showing the breakup of whatever the value was coming under 6A, that out of this ITC, what was related to import of good, what was an ITC related to reverse charge from registered dealer, what was an ITC related to import of services, what was the ITC related to your purchases from the unregistered person but under the reverse charge. So all that breakup have to be shown, and what was the ITC which is because of the reclaimed kind of thing, right? So here under the 6H, we showed that if there is some ITC which we have reclaimed, that has to be shown under 6H, right? So this is nothing but just a kind of a breakup. Now one part which is a very important part again here, you may always see that when we look into 6A, right, 6A is an ITC which has been claimed in FY 21-22. That may include some ITC which was related to your previous year but has been claimed in the current month or current year, right? There can always be some ITC which was related to FY 2021 but you have claimed in FY 21-22. Right? So here, when we are showing this value, this is nothing but just this GSTR-3B ITC which you have claimed for FY 21-22, and here you are just showing the breakup of that. This is not as per your books of account. This is as per your GSTR-3B, that what is the amount, what is the ITC which you have availed in your GSTR-3B. So you are just showing the breakup over here. Right? This is one part clear. So which means ultimately I am populating this value for my GSTR-3B. So whatever coming in 3B, I'm going to populate. But now the next question, which obviously you would have is, okay, in 3B, we never get a breakup of this input capital goods or input service. In 3B, we never get a breakup of, okay, what was the ITC which we have claimed in respect of the reverse charge, in respect of registered person on the unregistered person. That information was never part of my GSTR 3B. How would I get that information from my GSTR 3B? Right? So for that, let's understand that what are the fees which have been made optional and what are the fees which are mandatory as per our GSTR 3B. Right? So, or not 3B, I would say table number 6. So in table number 6, just to ease the compliance, right? Because obviously a lot of the information is not even available in my GSTR 3B. How am I going to get that information? So for that, like government have made some information as mandatory and some information as optional. So let's first understand that what are the mandatory information and what are the optional information in table number 6. So right now I'm just focused on table number 6 and I'm just talking about the ITC which you have claimed. This does not include the ITC which you have reversed, right? And this entire ITC is related to the ITC which have been claimed in your GSTR 3B of FY 21-22. There can be a chances that there was some ITC in table number 6 which was related to the previous year but have been claimed in FY 21-22. There is a chance, obviously that would be there, but still that will be shown in table number 6. We'll talk about that there would be another entry which we'll be talking about that how exactly that amount has to be shown. But when you look into table number 6, that is something which the ITC you have claimed in FY 21-22, that has to be shown in your table number 6. Let's now just talk about this part, right? So here, what we are just saying that table number 6A, it will include the figure pertaining to FY 20, 21, sorry, because we are filing for FY 21-22, so it will be actually 21-22 only. It's not so it will actually include, so it will have all the value which is claimed in FY 21-22. So it will also include the value which was related to 2021 and has been claimed in 21-22. So that ITC will also be shown in 6A. Right, that is what we have discussed. Now let's talk about what are the mandatory information, what were the optional information over here. So when we talk about the breakup, right, we had this input, we have this capital goods, we have input services and all. So what government is saying that when it comes to input and input services, you can club both the value and just show under the input. You don't even need that breakup part. That's a one part. So here, this input, capital goods, input services, you can always club the input and input service together and just show under the input. But when it comes to capital goods, you always have to show it separately. That's the one thing. So here, wherever we are showing this input, capital good, input services, you just club input service together. And regarding capital good, you have to always show separately. So which means ultimately from the books, we would know that what is the ITC related to the capital good. You can take it from there and just show it over here. And the rest information you can always autofill from your GSTR 3B form. That was one thing. Now the another important part, we also need all this breakup of, okay, what is the purchase from the registered person, what was from the unregistered person, what is import of goods, what is import of services and all. Do we need all this information, or I can again like club all this information and just show the net part? So for that also, right, when we look into this information, what the government is saying that, see here when it comes to this part, right, when we are talking about all this thing, you can actually decide, like for example this part, the inverse supply from unregistered person and inverse supply from registered person which is liable to reverse charge, you can merge both this information and just show together. So there also government have given relaxation. As we know in our GSTR 3B, right, we don't need that breakup. Whenever you show your reverse charge information, you don't need a breakup of whether it was purchased from a registered or unregistered. So here also the government says you can merge this information together and just show directly under the this part, like 6D. So you can directly show this information under the 6D part. So this is another relaxation which is already given. Rest of the information you just see, right, you can directly populate from your GSTR 3B only, because 3B already have these breakups, right? So this was like a one part where the government have like given like a different right, so which is actually given by the government. So now when we talk about table number 6, right, so we just talked about, okay, there was 6A which is coming from 3B, and this is nothing but a breakdown from 6B to 6H is nothing but a breakdown of the value which we are coming in 6A. So that ideally when we look into, like when you look into this J column, right, I minus A, this should be ideally 0. There should be no difference over here, right? So this is what they're saying, that you can always show it over here. Now, when we look into table number 7, so we first talked about table number 6, and table number 6 may we clearly say it is always about ITC which you have claimed in your GSTR 3B for FY 21-22, and below you are just showing the breakdown of whatever was claimed. I'm not even talking about books till now. Now, when we look into table number 7, is nothing but it is related to ITC which has been reversed. This is the ITC which you have reversed. Again, when we look into your GSTR 3B, right, in table number 4B, in 3B, under the 4B, we show the ITC which we have reversed. It could be because of 42, it could be because of rule number 43, it could be because of maybe rule 37. So this is when we have to reverse that ITC also, and now it can be because of the credit notes also. And the example which you took, right? In the starting, I took one example where I said that you have invoices, you have credit note. You all said that credit note we are totally today are showing under the 4B. If people are showing a net figure, then that value will not be coming in table number 7. Rather, the net figure will be coming in 6A also, and the breakup also when you just show, right? So in 6B also you have to take a net figure. So whosoever was showing a net figure in their GSTR 3B, here in table number 6, entire figure will come in, which means in table number, when we just look into table number 6A, the net figure will come. Whereas when we look into 6B also, you have to show the net figure. But people who are showing invoices debit note under the 4A5 and the credit note as a reversal under the 4B, for them the invoices and debit note ka value will come under the 6A as well as 6B, whereas the credit note ka value will come under the reversal wala part, which is number 7. We have this thing called 7H. So under 7H, you are going to show the credit notes here, right? Now the next part over here is, one is okay about the credit note that we are going to show it over here. Now the next part is that here sometime we just see there's one entry called as per section number 17.5. What exactly that means? So we usually get confused. So here also one important part which you should always keep in your mind is that, see, after the 3B changes which government have done, which is applicable from August 2022, right? There what government says, even in respect of the ineligible ITC, first you claim that ITC under 4A5 and then you do a permanent reversal under 4B1. That is what they are doing today, right? Which is applicable from August 2022. We are saying first claim it and then you reversed it. But when we go in previous year, which is when I talk about, because we are preparing GSTR-9 for FY 21-22. So when I'm preparing my GSTR-9 for FY 21-22, there that new changes was not there. New 3B changes was not even there. So here when we are talking about this part, what we are saying that if you have never shown the ITC related to the block credit, which means there was an ineligible ITC as per 17.5, which means assume that you have purchased a motor vehicle but you are not eligible to claim that ITC, or there was some purchases which you have made which is used for the personal consumption. Many times in our books of account we directly expense it out. When I expense it out, I never show under 4A5, I never claim that ITC, I never do a reversal under 4B1 or 4B. So I never claim it under 4A5, I never do a reversal under 4B1. I used to directly, many times I used to show, and most of the time I don't used to even show that. So when we look into 3B form, right, under that 4D section, there was a 4D also. If you remember, there was a 4D where we used to show this as ineligible ITC, right? So under the 4D section, we also used to show that there is some this one ineligible ITC as per section 17.5. So we never used to show under 4A5. We never used to claim it. We never used to even reverse it. We directly used to show under 4D1, which is just a kind of a declaration thing. Yes, there is some ineligible ITC, and many times we were not even actually filling this information. Most of the time we were ignoring that part, right? So where you had claimed it and you have also reversed in 4B2, right, where there was an ineligible ITC as per section number 17.5, which means you can't claim that ITC. Example, let's say personal consumption, rent a cab services, and you're not into that business, I'm assuming, and let's say purchase of motor vehicle and all. You had claimed it and you have also reversed it. In that particular case, this will form, that 17.5 wala thing will form part of table number 7. But if you have not reversed it over here, you have never claimed it, you have never reversed it, you have directly reported under 4D1, in that case, that particular ITC which is related to your block credit will never form part of your table number 7. So as a crux, if you have reversed some ITC in your GSTR-3B, then it will form part of table number 7. If you have not reversed any ITC in this table number 4B of GSTR-3B, then that part will not form part of your table number 7. Right? So ultimately, table 7 is again getting filled from your GSTR-3B. So whatever the ITC you have reversed, so here you just have to show a breakup. What is as per rule 37, what is as per rule number 39, what is as per 42, what is as per 43, what is as per 17.5, what is as per the other reversals like rule 38 for banking company, 40 for some special circumstances and all. That information you have to show it over here. But again, in number 7, the government, they have given, I will say, they have made a lot of things optional so that it is very easy for people, for a taxpayer to even file GSTR-9. So for that, what again they have done, they are saying, okay, you don't have to report all this breakup. It's okay, because if we look into GSTR-3B, right, we never had that breakup. There was only two things, one is 4B1 and one is 4B2. 4B1 we used to show, okay, ITC reversal as per 42 and 43. 4B2 we used to show as another. Right? So we never had that breakup properly. So what they're saying, again, don't worry, you don't show me all this breakup. I don't need all this breakup. You put the ITC which has been reversed in your GSTR-3B directly under 7H. So I can directly look into my GSTR-3B. You just look into 4B, what was an ITC reversed, and just showing 7H, right? So here, when you look into that, this net ITC available for utilization 7J is nothing, but this is something which is the ITC you actually claim and which is actually gone to your electronic credit ledger also, right? 7H is an amount which is actually gone to your electronic credit ledger. To the electronic credit ledger also. So when you look into the electronic credit ledger, that is the amount which is posted over there, right? So what we discussed till now is table 6. It talk about whatever the ITC you have claimed in FY 21-22, right? It could be related to some previous year. That's also okay. In table number 6, I'm saying whatever the ITC I have claimed in 3B. Table number 7, I'm talking about whatever the ITC I have reversed in 3B. That is the information I'm going to show in table number 7. Right here again, table number 7, this is that value which is coming. Hello. Great. Sorry, I think there was some internet problem at my end, so I got disconnected in between. So we'll just resume from where we were. Like we were talking about table number 6, we were talking about table number 7. We said that in table number 6, we are just talking about whatever the ITC we have claimed in GSTR-3B, right? That is the information we have in table number 6. And that ITC could be related to the current year. That ITC could also be related to some previous year, which we have claimed in the 3B for FY 21-22. So that all information will come in table number 6. And when we talk about table number 7, we said whatever ITC we are reversing, right? Whatever ITC we reverse because of maybe rule 37, 39, what all that information. Hello. I think I just got disconnected again. Am I audible now? Great. So let's just talk about, so we just talk about table number 6 where we just talk about ITC claim part. Then we talk about table number 7 where we talk about the reversal part, that whatever the ITC we have reversed in GSTR-3B, that information has to be shown in table number 7. Again, that reversal could be related to previous year. It could be related to the current year. Like whatever the ITC we have reversed in 3B or FY 21-22 has to be shown in table number 7. And there the government have also given kind of a relaxation, I would say, that we know that there is some breakup which we asked, right? That in 7A we have to show as per rule number 37, or 7B we have to show as per rule number 39. So that breakup is not like a kind of mandatory thing. You may always choose to show the entire ITC reversal amount which is done in GSTR-3B in 7H itself, right? So that is what we are showing, or we can directly show. So that is what we have asked for. And then when we look into the 7J, this is a net ITC which is available for utilization and which also gets credited into our electronic credit ledger. So when we look into the electronic credit ledger, right, there also that amount we gets reflected. So that is nothing but that is the information which is coming in 7J. So hopefully till now table number 6 and table number 7 is clear to all of you. So is there any doubt related to table number 6 and 7? If you have any query related to table 6 and 7, you can just post on chat box. I will be taking all the queries. So after we are done with table number 8, right, we'll anyhow be taking all the queries which you have in relation to table number 6 and 7. Now let's just go into the table number 8, because this is again really very important table. And here we have lot of questions, lot of queries, and we usually get confused regarding like what information will be coming in 8a, what information we have to show in 8b, what information is coming in 8c, and all of that information, right? That is all of the queries we have today. See, now again when we look into 8a, right, 8a is the ITC which is coming as per 2a 2b, whatever we may say. When we are saying 2a and 2b, right, you again should not like focused on actually the wording used over here, 2a, right? They are just showing that the ITC which has been shown by your supplier in their GSTR-1, which is coming in my GSTR-2A or 2B, right? That information has to be come or get populated in 8A. Now you will be wondering, let me ask you a few questions. That see here, the government just frees some value. That is some value which is coming over here, which I can't change, right? I cannot change that information. But at the same time, government also give me a way where I can get a document level information over here. So in 8A, the value whichever is coming, I can always get a document level information here. And let me ask you a few questions over here. When we look into the 8A value which is getting auto populated over here, we know that in 2B, right, or 2A, whatever I say, let's say in 2A, we know that there is file document as well as not file document. First question to all of you, whether that not file document, where the supplier has uploaded some document in their GSTR-1, but they have not filed GSTR-1, whether that value will be populated in your 8A or not. There was a supplier uploaded the document in their GSTR-1, but they have not filed their GSTR-1. Let's say this is related to March 2022. Whether that value will be populated in 8A or not. I could see the answer from Paveen says no, Ashokan says no, Vijay says no, Abhinav says, everyone says no, and which is the correct answer. So which means here we are only going to get the filed document. Let me ask you another second question. There is a supplier, right? I purchased from that supplier. Let's say I was in the state of Karnataka. I'm registered in the state of Karnataka. I visited Delhi. There I stayed in a hotel. Hotelier asked for my GST number. They said, "Can you give my can you give your GST number?" I go, "Right, this is my GST number," because I was registered in the state of Karnataka. I shared that GST number with them, right? Now this hotelier, we know as per the place of provision, the place of supply ka provision, this person is going to charge CGST, SGST, and the place of supply that person is going to show in the invoice which is going to issue to me would be the Delhi state. Why? Because we know in case of immobile property, the place of supply is a state in which the immobile property is situated. So in this particular case, the supplier will be showing the place of supply as Delhi, whereas my state is Karnataka. So when I look into my GSTR 2B today, this comes under the ineligible category because my place of supply or my state and the place of supply mentioned by the supplier is not matching. So this comes under the ineligible category. Question is whether the value of that ITC which is comparing in my 2A and 2B will form part of table 8A or not. Wherever my state is not matching with the place of supply mentioned by the supplier and the invoice is mentioning or coming in my 2A or 2B, whether that information will be populated in 8A or not. I could see the answer from Satish. Satish says no, Manjuna says no, Vithal says no, Aravinda says no, Shilpa says no. All right, everyone is saying no, and which is the correct answer. So wherever there is an ineligible ITC as per my 2B, that information will not form part of table number 8A. Right? Let me ask you another question. There was a supplier, right? There was a supplier. That supplier has filed their return for the month of March. Obviously, he can file the return for the month of March, right? He has filed the return for the month of March, let's say in September 2022. This ITC gets reflected. He has filed in September, right? So this ITC gets reflected in my October GSTR 2B, right? Invoices, everything was assuming this was related to month of March only. This ITC gets reflected in October whether that particular invoice, the information will be reflected in 8A or not. What happened? Supplier filed his return for the month of March 2022 in the month of, let's say, September, which is coming in my GSTR to be for the month of October, whether that ITC will be reflected in the 8A of table or not. I'm getting the answer again, a mixed answer. Some people says yes, some people says no. So if I ask you, or I will tell you this thing, whether that ITC will come in or, first question is, am I eligible to claim that ITC? The answer would be yes, as per the new rules, yes. Because as per the new rules, I can claim that ITC till 30th of November, which means again, when I claim that ITC, I always claim in 3B ka filing. And 3B filing, when I'm saying, obviously, I can claim that ITC till my October return period, right? Since I can claim in my 3B, so which means in October return, I can always claim that ITC till my 30th November. So here my return period is October, and obviously I have to also make sure that I am filing my October return till 30th November. So I can claim that ITC. Whether it will form part of 8A or not, the answer is yes. So today the government, they auto-populated whatever have been uploaded by my supplier till their October ka return, right? Because I will be eligible to claim that ITC, that will form part of table number 8A. Similarly, there could also be another example. There was a supplier who has uploaded one invoice dated, let's say, 31st March in the month of April 2022. That will also form part of table 8A, because that invoice again belongs to FY 21-22, though it was filed in the month of April and I was eligible to claim that ITC. So where I was eligible to claim ITC, that information will come again in table number 8A. So which means, in short, if you ask me, whatever the ITC which was related to my FY 21-22 and the supplier has uploaded or filed till October ka return period, all that information will form part of 8A. Information related to FY 21-22 filed till October thing will form part of 8A. This is one important part which you should understand. So here, this ITC, so even if supplier has filed late, still that ITC will be reflected in 8A, right? So this is one part which we should understand. Now the other part is, like, now when we look into 8B, okay, before that, let me also ask one another important question. 8A, will it only have the invoices and debit note, or it will also account for credit note? I gave you in the starting, I gave you one example, right? I said that there was an invoice of 100 and there was a credit note of 20 rupees. This was also reflecting in your GSTR 2B. My question was whether in 8A you will see 80 rupees or you're going to see 100 rupees. I could see the answer from Arjun. Arjun says account for credit note also. Vita says no credit note. Abhinav says 8A will account for everything. Okay, Sandeep says both credit debit note. All right, so I am getting different answers over here. So here, if you ask me, right, today the government, when they are populating the value in 8A, they account for credit note also, which means ultimately when you look into this, you are going to get the value of 80 rupees. Why am I even focusing on this part? Because there is a reason. You will see a discrepancy here, which you should always make sure you're doing a proper or maintaining a proper documentation with you, so that in future, whenever you're getting any notice from the department, any communication from the department, you are in the place where you can even reply it very properly, because you have already maintained every documentation, right? So when you look into 8A, this is always a net figure. This has the invoices plus debit note minus credit note, and all the documents which has been uploaded by the supplier till October ka return period related to FY 21-22 will form part of this. Let me take another example. There was a document, there was one invoice which is coming, let's say, in the month of May, related to May only, May 2022. Return period May 2022, filed also in May 2022. My question is whether that document will form part of 8A of FY 21-22. There was one invoice filed by the supplier in their GSTR-1 for the month of May, getting reflected in 2B also in the month of May. Invoice date was also for May only. Whether the document will form part of 8A or not. I could see answer from Manjunath, no. Sudhi says no. Anchi says no. So everyone says is no. MH is right answer also, because that is not related to FY 21-22. So here I am only getting that invoices dated from your April 21 20, I would say April 20, like 2021 to March 2022, which could have been filed from April 2021 till October 2022. So return period could be from April to October, but the document date should always be related to FY 21-22, right? That is the information which we should see over here. So when you look into 8A, you will always see the document which is related to FY 21-22 filed till October will be coming over here. But again, when I'm saying documents, always the eligible document, and it's always the invoices plus debit note minus credit note, right? So all eligible documents will form part of here, but only the eligible document, and again only the filed document, not filed document will not form part of this. Now the another part is, okay, 8A we got it, what information we are going to get it from the government. We also get a document level information, we can even download that from the government portal. Now when we look into 8B, 8B is nothing but it shows the ITC as per 6B and 6H. When you look into the 6B, you remember what was that information we have shown? It was the purchases which you have made from the registered dealer other than reverse charge, right? Again, one important part in 8A, right? If there is a transaction which is covered under the reverse charge, then that will not form part of 8A. Because we know in 2B, whenever you're purchasing, right, from the registered person, even the transaction which was covered under the reverse charge, which is purchased from registered person, will also form part of 2B, right? But here you again have to apply one filter. Wherever the reverse charge is Y in 2B, you don't have to consider that in 8A. So 8A mein that value will never be there, right? It is always where the reverse charge was not there, that information is only going to reflect in 8A, right? Similarly, when we look into 8B, this is all purchases from my registered dealers, which is other than the reverse charge. That is 6B. 6H was the reclaimed ITC. If you remember that 180 ka reverses which we talked about, right? That 150 rupees ka example which we talked about. So that ITC is coming over here. So now let's remember the two example I gave you in the starting, right? I said in 6B, right? What I would have shown 100 rupees, right? I said there was an invoice of 100, there was a credit note of 20 rupees. I said that in 6B, I'm going to show 100 rupees, right? Why? Because credit note we have shown in table number 7, right? Whosoever was not showing the net figure, for them, in table number 6B, we would have shown 100 rupees. So here, when we look into 8B also, we are getting the value of 100 rupees, right? Then when we look into 6H mein what I just say I'm getting? 6H mein I am getting 150 rupees. That is true. 6H mein I am getting 150 rupees. But you also remember, right? That value would also be reflecting in my 6A5. In the earlier month, I would have claimed that ITC. So when I look into my 6B, ideally it's not only 100 rupees, but it's 100 plus 150. Right? First time when I would have claimed that ITC, I would have shown 100 plus 150, which means I would have shown 250 rupees over there. Who are on the same page? I gave one example where I said in 6B, I assume that I only have 2 invoices in my GSTR-2B. When I have only 2 invoices in my GSTR-2B, let's assume that first ITC, where there was a credit note also, which means that invoice was for 100, the credit note was of 20 rupees. In 6B, for that particular invoice, I would have shown 100 rupees, right? Is there any question over here? I said, okay, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you what value will be going in 6B if I am here, right? First example, same example I'm asking. I have an invoice of 100, I have a credit note, right? In 6B, I have an invoice of 100, I have a credit note of rupees 20. In 6B, what value will come? I could see answer from Abhinav. Abhinav says 100. What about others? Nandini says 100. Kishan says 100. Sandeep says 80. Ashokan says 80. All right. So see, if we are showing net figure in GSTR-3B, then the value over here will be 80. But if we are showing the separate as whatever is getting auto-populated from GSTR-2B, because their credit note is coming under the reversals, then it will come as 100, right? So we said that, okay, most of the time we go with 2B, whatever is coming in 2B. So which means ultimately when we look into 6B, the value which will be reflecting would be 100, right? Now the second example we said, right? let's assume forgot about that 100, we are parking that. Let's say now in 6B we have something called 100 rupees. Second example which we gave was a reclaimed wala ITC. Let's say in the month of April I claimed an ITC of 100 rupees, and then after 7-8 months I have reclaimed that ITC of that 100 rupees again, which is coming in my 6H. In 6A, right? So when you look into 6A, you would be seeing I gave an example of 150, right? So in that second example, I had claimed ITC of 150 and then I have reclaimed that ITC of 150 again. So in 6A, you said that 300 will be populating, right? There is no problem. All right, in 6A, 300 is coming. When we look into 6B, right? 6B mein what value will be coming? In 6B mein will again show 150 and 6H mein also we will show 150 rupees, right? There is no problem there. 6B 150, 6H also 150. Now what will happen? In 6B we show 150 and 6H also 150. So 100 rupees in 6B was already sitting, which means in 6B now I have total 150 plus 100, which means 250. And 6H, what is the value I'm getting? I have the value of 150. So now when I look into table number 8B, what would be the value which is going to come? It will be 250 plus 150, right? Because in 6H 150 was coming, in 6B 250 was coming, so 250 plus 150, which means 400 rupees would be coming over there. But when you look into 2B, right, this was a very genuine case. When you look into 2B, you are only going to get 150 plus 80 rupees. That is what the value I'm going to get in my 2B. So definitely there would be a difference in this case, right? So this is something you will see practically whenever we have filled in the different information. You will see a gap over here, but that's a genuine reason that there would be such difference. That's the reason you have to maintain. You should not worry about the differences which is coming in 8D. Here I'm not talking about the ITC I have claimed in the next month and all. I talked about the very genuine case, right? You will always see a differences, but you should not worry about this 8D ka difference. If there is such difference, you should know, okay, this difference is because of the credit note, this difference is because of the reclaim of ITC. That is something you should always document with you while you're preparing your GSTR-9. So this is one important point which we should always consider. Now here, because we said in 8A, right, there can be always ITC which is coming, which is appearing here, because here that there could be a supplier who had filed maybe let's say next month ka May or June, right? So it is coming in my 2B of June 2022, and I also claim that ITC in my June 3B. When I would have claimed that ITC in my June 3B, obviously it will not come in 8B. Why it's not coming in 8B? Because 8B I was just focused on the ITC which I have claimed in FY 21-22, right? But in 8A, I may also get an ITC which was maybe filed by my supply in the next month, right? So that information again, right? So there also maybe sometime I myself have received the goods or the services in the next month, so I would have claimed in the next year. So that ITC which is coming into me, but I have claimed in the next year, right? ITC related to my FY 21-22, but in claimed in April 2022 till October 2022 has to be shown in 8C, right? So when we look into the 8C, this is some ITC related to FY 21-22 but has been claimed in the next year, which is from April 2022 to October 2022, that has to be shown in 8C, right? So this is the value we have to show, and then there could be a differences. Then here, if there is some ITC which is coming in 2B but which is ineligible, right? Example, personal consumption and all, then you can just show it over here in 8F that there is some ITC which is ineligible. And let's say there was some ITC coming in reflecting in 2B, but you have not claimed. Though it's always good that you claim it now, but still if you have not claimed it, which is a kind of lapsed ITC, see, if you're doing all this reconciliation, if you're preparing now itself, right, you have a time period, because October return anyhow you're going to file in the month of November, you still have a time to claim it. It's always good that you claim it now in the October month, so that under 80 you are not getting anything. So under 80 ideally you should not get anything. You should not show anything which has been lapsed. You should claim it. If you have not claimed it, just claim it if it is your eligible ITC, right? So then there is an ITC which is paid on the import of goods that have to be shown under the 8G. and then whatever is coming reclaimed, you have to show it over here. So this was about table number 8, and then we have 12 and 13. Again, the ITC which was related to the current year claimed in the next year has to be shown in 13. ITC related to the current year but reversed in the next year has to be shown in table number 12. Right. So this is the information which we have to show, but though it is optional in nature, it's always recommended that you show this information properly, because this is really very useful when there is any notice which you have received, because this will help you in justifying that yes, there is ITC which has been claimed in the next year, or there is some reversal related to current year have been done in the next year. So it always help in the reversal. So this was all about that ITC table, and I know we have already overshoot the time. We have already overshoot our time of that 1 hour. There are also some case studies and all where we have like talked about like what about ITC related to current year claimed in next month and all. So anyhow, we'll just share maybe this PPT, and you can always mail me at surbhi@cleartext.in. So that's my mail ID, or you can even mail us at gstsupport@cleartext.in. So that's our mail ID, and this is about the case study. So you can always get this PPT, and I would just suggest if you try looking into this case study yourself and trying to answer this yourself and see if that matches with this result or not, because this also have a spillover effect. What about for current year, the adjustments done in the next year and all? So all of this can again be done through this. So you can always go through this case studies also. And if you don't receive PPT on time, you can always mail us at gstssupport@cleartext.in. So that's our mail ID, or you can even mail us at surbhi@cleartext.in. So that's my mail ID. So still if you don't get this, so you can always mail me at surbhi@cleartext.in. So that's my mail ID. And maybe let's next 5 minutes, let me take some few queries. I know there are a lot of queries which is there on the chat box, so let me take some queries over here. And still if you have some doubt, right, which I was not able to answer during the session, I would just suggest you can mail me at surbhi@cleartext.in. I will happy to answer all of your queries which is related to your GSTR-9. So let me just take few queries here. I could see one query from Ravinder who is asking where to, and also one more thing, I think there is one feedback form which has been shared with all of you. So you can just you can see that would be on over your screen. So you can always like even fill in that feedback form, and it will also ask for some topics where on which you want to have a like you want to have a session. So you can always like even recommend the topics on which you want to have some session. So one question is from Ravinder who is asking where to show in GSTR-9 from unregistered person which reverse charge not paid or liable to be paid. So Ravinder, again, if there was some ITC which you have missed, like showing, right, it's always advisable that you ideally you should make that adjustment now in the current month 3B itself, because still you have a time, right? You just better show that ITC in your 3B for the current month and also claim that ITC, because right now there's a timeline. Obviously there's a timeline to claim ITC, right? Though for reverse charge that's not the case, but it's always advisable that you show the liability also and claim that ITC also in the current month. And in that particular case, where exactly you will be showing, because there is also one section called if you just look into, right, we have a table called table number 13. So in table number 13 you are going to show that ITC which you have claimed related to current year and paid or maybe claimed in the next month, so that you are going to show in table number 13. As well as we also have 4G. So in 4G, because that was the liability, right, under the reverse charge related to FY 21-22, so that you have to show in 4G also. So you are going to show 4G the liability part, and ITC part you are going to show in table number 13. Okay, so next question is Abhinav 8E asks for labs not claimed till March 3B or till October. Abhinav, it is till October. So if you have, it is lapsed if you have not claimed till October return period, which means till 30th of November of the next year. So if it is not claimed till 30th of the November of the next year, right, then it's a kind of permanent lapse. But if you have claimed till October, then it's not a lapse thing. So when we look into 8E, they are saying the till the time limit which is defined in section 16, and the time limit which is defined in section 16 is till your next year October return period, which means till 30th of November. Another question from Arun who is asking, can we claim ITC which is pertaining to a FY 2021 which we have shown in written September 2021 under the unclaimed ITC? So, Arun, if you have already claimed in like, if you ask me, right, there was some ITC which was related to FY 2021, and you have claimed in September 2021, which means while you are now filing your return, like you're filing your GST-9 for FY 21-22, automatically that amount will come in table number 6. As I told you, right, in table number 6, whatever the ITC you have claimed in FY 21-22, even if there was an ITC related to the previous year, will form part of your table number 6 ka breakup. So that value will be automatically be appearing in your table number 6. So ideally, when you look into your books of account, right, so your books of account ITC will always match with the ITC which is coming in table number 6, minus you do the ITC which is there in table number 13 of your last year GSTR-9. So when you do the minus of table number 13 of the last, like last GSTR-9, last year ka GSTR-9, plus table number 12 of last year GSTR-9, right? That plus current year ka, you whenever you add up, right? Whenever you add up table number 13 of current year and subtract table number 12 of current year, it will always match with your books of account. That is how we have to see that how the values can match it. Now, okay, so I could see there is another question. So there is another question which is being asked. So here, when we just see the next question is whether the 8D is equal to 8K. So if you look into 8D, right, it's a difference, and when we look into 8K, it's a total ITC to be lapsed in the current financial year. The answer is no. 8D will not be equal to 8K, and obviously why it will not be equal, because ultimately when we see E plus F plus J, it's nothing but ITC which was available but which was not availed, or the ITC which was becoming ineligible and all. So it can be equal, it cannot be equal. So it's not like it always have to be equal. Right. So right. So here another question is from Paveen, who's asking unregistered purchases under 9.4 where to show. So see, again, whenever it is covered under the reverse charge, right? So whenever it's covered under reverse charge, first you have to pay the liability, then you have to claim the ITC. When we are talking about like first part, right, where we have paid the liability, will show in 4G of GSTR-9. Whenever we are claiming ITC, we will be showing in table number 6, and under table number 6, right, because an unregistered kind of a thing, so there is a table called 6C. So under 6C we are going to show this information. Right. So I think we have covered most of the query, but still another is from Praveen saying who is not okay. So Praveen, if it is not under the reverse charge, right, wherever you have purchases from the unregistered dealer and it is not covered under reverse charge, then we don't have to show that information anywhere in GSTR-9 ka form. So the exempted purchases, the nil dated purchases, the non-GST purchases, right, all that information we don't even have to show in the GSTR-9 ka form. Okay, so yeah, so I think we have covered most of the query, but still, in case I was not able to answer any of your query, I would suggest to just mail me at the, so there is a mail ID. So I will just like maybe share my screen again. So this is a mail ID which is gstsupport@cleartext.in. So you can mail us at gstsupport@cleartext.in, or you can also mail me at surbhi@cleartext.in. So you can even ask for the PPT on the same mail ID. So they will revert with you the mail, the PPT. But still, in case you don't get the PPT or your queries are not answered, you can always drop me a mail at surbhi@cleartext.in. With this, thank you for joining the session, and hope it was valuable, and hope you like the session. Still, as I told you, if you have query, you please happy. I am happy to answer any of your queries, so you can just mail me. Thank you very much.